Carter C. King USC King recently won the biggest online poker tournament of all time as far as prize pool is concerned, the PokerStars World Championship of Online Poker main event. He earned almost $1.3 million after his final table deal. He outlasted 2,184 other players to collect the prize and the illustrious title. King was already a well-known online pro before his win, and the score pushed his lifetime Online Player of the Year winnings to over $2 million. We've got Carter on the phone today to talk about two interesting hands that he personally selected from the tournament to discuss. All right, so thank you very much for being on the phone with us today, Carter.
Thank you for having me.
So let's actually just jump right into the hands. I mean, obviously this is a huge event to have won, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's pretty amazing, so far at least.
So far at least. Well, I hope you hang on to that entire $1.3 million.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know what's this economy, though, but hopefully
yeah, it's true.
Can do something with it.
Way to stay topical and current. Let's go with the economy.
I try.
So let's jump right into the first hand here then. In the first hand, this is a little bit earlier in the tournament. You have about 29,000 in chips, and you are dealt pocket fives under the gun +1. The first person into the pot comes in for a raise, a pretty standard raise of 3 times the blind, which is 150 at this point. There are no antes. So as soon as the under the gun raiser, this is pretty much a full ring. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 people at the table. It's pretty much a full ring, and the under the gun player comes in for a raise. You can't be too happy with your small pocket pair here, can you?
Normally not. In a situation where this is deeper, this is a pretty clear fold, but deep in the tournament. But when we're this deep chip-wise, the blinds are 25-50. I have almost 30,000 chips. She's got about 25,000. That's 500. That's over 500 big ones deep, and it's more than enough implied odds to set mine and try to win a big pot. So, I'm just trying to see a lot of flops at this point and try to chip up as best I can. So, I'll take marginal spots because I'm not going to stack off. The board comes 8 high or something like that, or things like that. So, I'm just trying to find a spot to set and win a big pot.
I was going to say this is pretty much a hand entirely designed to either flop, set, or fold at this point. You're pretty much mentally checked out as far as the 150. If you miss, you're just gonna fold and lose it because it's no big deal, right? So you end up just calling, and what's the ideal situation for you here? Like, do you want no more callers, or do you want a whole bunch of people to call to build a big pot?
I would like about 1 or 2 more callers would really be optimal. You don't want too many because in general the flops a lot of times going to have some draws on them, and as much as you like to have other people have draws to pay you off, you don't want a billion people in there because if you flop the set, you bet the flop, and you get 3 callers, and you get a lot of awkward spots if on the turn. But you definitely want to see lots of people in the hand because you want someone to have something if you have a set because you're oftentimes so good when you flop the set. So
well, and also, kind of going back to the under the gun raise in the first place, when someone raises under the gun, usually it's pretty safe to make a decently big part of their range big pocket pairs. Is that not true?
Absolutely, and that's the best part about semi versus I'm in a position versus someone who's already shown a lot of strength by raising under the gun. So if they're in the hand and and if I flop a set, there's a real chance that if they could have an overpair or an ace-king type hand that if the ace flops, they're going to put a lot of money in the pot. And so, it's really an optimal situation for the most part.
Well, but the kind of counter to that, though, if you're kind of putting them as big pocket pairs are being a decently large part of their range, and you're also trying to flop a set with an overcard on the board in an attempt to get more money out of them because they flop top pair and you now have a set and they'll lose some money to you, can you really factor in the idea that any overcard could have also given them a set over set? Or can you not just really realistically factor that into your decisions in this kind of spot?
It's something that you have to consider, especially when this deep as far as stacking off. This is one of the few parts where you're so deep that stacking off a bottom set can actually be bad. But you can't worry about everyone set over setting every time you flop a set. If it happens, it happens. And you just gotta play and hope to win a big pot. And if they flop a set, that's life.
Okay. Well, so you end up calling the 150 from the under the gun raiser, and everyone else folds, which isn't the most optimal situation. You said you would have liked one or two more callers, maybe, but nevertheless, you have position on this guy.
Exactly.
And the flop comes down King 8-5 Rainbow, which is pretty much your perfect flop. I mean, it has an overcard, which, I mean, he could easily have ace king, I would assume. It's a rainbow, so there's not too many draws for you to have to worry about. And he comes out firing for 200 into a 375 pot. What is your thought process at this point?
Well, Ching usually comes to mind at this point. At this point, there's just the situation is, do we want to raise them now or try to slow play it? This deep, I want to try to get as many chips in the pot. And, on bank now, I'm having a big hand raise them, as you said. So here I want to raise them, and try to get some more money into the pot. And so that's what I do. I believe I make it 600, and he calls, right?
No, you actually just call.
Did I just call? Oh, I was paused by it. Well, that's not bad either.
I was going to say there can be an argument made for both, and I'm wondering. I was actually going to ask why you just called here, because it's obvious from what you just said that your standard line here, because you're so deep stacked, would be to raise, because he probably caught this flop. He probably doesn't see too many dangers and draws or anything like that, so he'd probably just call you raise. So do you have any idea, obviously just looking at this in a vacuum, just like you said, you probably would have raised. So do you have any idea what may have been going through your mind with just calling here?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I definitely mix it up, and there's definitely the points where you don't oftentimes raise in the floppy. The board's so dry that when I do raise, he's gonna be like, okay, well, it's not a draw most likely. The 6-7 is really the only draw, and it's a very small part of my range. I'm calling his under the gun range from under the gun +1 myself, so he's not gonna really, So the board's super dry. So there's definitely, you can definitely just call, and then, also it's gonna make me look kind of like I might be just like floating and stuff like that. So there's definitely good arguments for calling, especially on such a dry flop. Because if I raise him there and then he calls and then he checks the turn and I bet the turn, if he's got something like queens or something like that, he's gonna let him go. No, the board's really dry, so it's definitely fun to just call there and try to let him keep firing away and try to make a raise at a later point in the pot.
And realistically, by checking here, you're kind of trying to avoid having a scare card for him hit on the turn. What are the kinds of cards that you don't want to see on the turn that may shut him down and may get you less chips?
At this point, there's not a lot of scare cards that could come out for really either of us if we both have good hands. For me, the board's so it's so dry. I guess maybe like at 9 if he happened to raise like a 6-7 under the gun, the strike in there. But for the most part, I'd really like to see. I wouldn't mind seeing it. If I really think it's like an ace king type hand, I wouldn't mind seeing an ace peel off or another king. They're definitely not the greatest cards because I can always get counterfeited. But I want to try to cooler him, so I wouldn't mind. If he doesn't have like an ace king type hand, that's fine. But I'm trying to cooler, so ultimately. I'd love to see like an ace or another king peel off, and there's no real scary cards that you have this set. It's rainbow. Let's do this.
Well, my point was more that the turn does come out 8 of spades, which puts out another 8 and a flush draw, and my point was that is this 8 a scare card for him? Like, could he have conceivably put you on mid pair on the flop, and now he thinks he may be behind with that 8, and that would actually damage your ability to make more money off of him if he has something like ace king?
I think it possibly might go into pot control mode with a card like that, but when the flush draw gets down the turn, I have to be float. I can float very widely in this flop. We're so deep, and so it's definitely possible to have a mid pair in my range. But for me personally, it's a pretty solid card. And it's only possible he could turn like a backdoor flush draw. So that's good for me too. It's not really a scary card. It's the king would be a really bad card for him if he doesn't have an ace king. But otherwise than that, the 8 it's a pretty good card. It eliminates one possible set for me because I probably don't have pocket eights now.
Right.
Because that would make me quad. So it's not that bad.
Okay. And he does end up checking the turn though, and then you put out 450. What are you trying to represent here, and what are you hoping is going through his mind after you bet that?
I'm just trying to represent a float in the spot, maybe some sort of turn flush draw. I'll value betting king queen here, which I'd call with pre-flop. So right here, I'm just trying to look like I could be floating, I could be value betting the worst hand type situation. I just need to build a pot. I can't afford to check and I'm just trying to build a pot. So I'm more or less representing. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to build a pot.
Okay. And so he ends up calling your bet. How does that narrow down his range?
When he bets flop me check calls there, I was a little bit weird. Because there's not a lot of king X hands in my range. If he has a king at all or better, it does make sense for him just to check call there. So I personally kind of felt like he was a little bit weaker than that. But I felt like he had like a mid pocket pair, not necessarily mid, but a mid to high pocket pair that he was pot controlling, or possibly I don't know. Yeah, it was a very weird spot.
So basically, you couldn't narrow it down too much.
Right. Yeah, but I'd say it was at that point. I personally thought he had the weaker part of his range.
Okay. So after he calls your bet, he check calls your bet of 450 on the turn. There's now 1,675 in the pot, and the river is the ace of spades. So completed a possible flush draw he may have had, but you already had the full house, so that's an excellent card for you. If he has ace king, right, that's an excellent card for you because now he has a better two pair. I mean, is there anything you're afraid of here? Are you pretty much playing as if you have the nuts?
I'm playing this more or less like the nuts. Unless pending some ridiculous action, I'm pretty happy with this hand. So, okay. Hopefully I don't say he had to 3-bet me on the turn. That'd be ridiculous. But
well, he check called you on the turn, and then the ace of spades comes on the river, and he leads out. So right. You were already kind of confused on the turn with his check call. Not confused, but you were a little wary of it. And now he's leading out on the river. What could this possibly mean? I mean, does that scare you more than the ace of spades would have?
This looks pretty awesome because it's a lot better than if he check raises me. He could be he could have a flush and he's just trying to lead, trying to get some value. He could have he could turn he could river his top two pair, and he doesn't want to check to me because he's worried the spade might kill his action, and I'll just check behind the hand I would call or river bet. So here I'm just. I'm pretty excited, and I think it's a pretty clear spot to raise for value when he bets into me with my, my boat. So, that's pretty much what I do. It's an excellent spot for me, I think, and so not too scared. Just raise it up.
Okay. So you raise it about 3x. You raised at 2,850, and he re-raises you to 12,000. So another 4 times. It's pretty much half your stack at this point, half of your remaining stack at this point. Are you just trying to, minimize your losses at this point in case on the off chance you really are behind if you had pocket kings or pocket aces, or?
To be honest, this is the spot I tanked this hand pretty hard, and I really almost folded it. I still kind of debated myself if I should have or not. When he makes this raise, I have to think about what does he have here that he's doing this with? What's he doing for value with? What's he doing for plus with? And barring that he doesn't realize the board is paired, it's probably not a flush. So for the flush, he's gonna bet and he's gonna call. So his range is really, I think it's so many more boats and so many or a lot of bluffs, and it's pretty early on. So really, this is a spot where I think it's a raise fold. You raise for value, fold when he puts this extra money in here. But I'm a fish, so I pay him off.
Obviously, you're a fish. You ended up going on to win it. Obviously, you're a fish.
Yeah, no, but it's one of those spots where I felt like like I said, usually you can't be scared that the person there has a set, but I just don't think I don't think his range is enough bluffs or weaker hands going for value. Which because it's possible. He's just so deep. He raises so many hands on the gun. He could have ace-8. He could have aces, kings. I don't think ace king's is gonna three bet that river for value. It's just it's just ridiculous. So I guess it'd be really asking a lot for him to do with just trips. So this is a spot which is a clear fold, which I as you can see did not do, but we all make mistakes.
Well, and he flips over aces, so he did river you, and he rivered the better full house with aces full of 8s. And you minimize your losses, not as much as you could have, like you're saying, but you still minimize your losses, which is important in this kind of thing, even early on, because if you lose the tournament early, you can't go on to win it like you did, so.
Yeah, exactly. The one mistake, which isn't that huge a mistake, I do have a boat, calling, but, there's, at least I didn't, there's always worse things you can do. And I pride myself in my game of really limiting my mistakes. So at least I limited that one, decently well.
All right, let's continue on to the next hand here. This is another hand that you gave us, the final hand we're going to talk about today. It's heads up with Liberace. It's just the final heads up match for the entire prize. You had already made a deal at this point, so no matter what, Liberace was going to make the most money in the tournament, but there was a very, very decent amount still on the line for first place, along with the title, of course. And so you had the chip lead at this point. You had about 40 million. He had approaching 15 million. Your effective stack, you had 160 big blinds. He had about 60 big blinds. And pre-flop, you have ace-8, and you're on the small blind, your first act, and you raise to 2.5x. Again, probably not much to talk about there. That's got to be pretty standard heads up, right?
Sometimes I raise a little bit. I'll raise the full 3x once we get heads up and we're as deep as we are. But in this situation, Liberace, I felt, was his weakest part of his game was post-flop play. I felt he played pretty poorly post-flop. So I was actually, and I just wanted to play as many positions as I could. So I was making the smaller raises in this situation just simply to induce action from Liberace.
Okay. So you raise 2.5, just about 2.5x to 600,000. The blinds were at 250,000 at that point, and he re-raises you from the big blind to 1.5 million. It's about 2.5x more. How often had he been doing a re-raise heads up in this match so far?
We had just started playing heads up, so I think this might actually be the first re-raise, because heads up did not last very long. Mm-hmm. I think this might have been his first re-raise pre-flop heads up. But even so, most of his game consisted of a lot of pre-flop re-raises. Post-flop, he was really pretty simple. A lot of big bets when he had a moderate, mediocre hand. A lot of checks when he had nothing or a monster. So he was pretty easy to figure out where he was at post-flop. His pre-flop game is where he really mixed up his game a lot. So when he three bets there, I'm looking at ace-8 suited, and it's a good hand heads up. The ace and et cetera, and there's also an awesome spot to really lean on him here when he three bets me, because I can shove mathematically pretty exploitably, and expect to make a profitable big. I can make several big blinds doing this. Mathematically, it's mathematically unexploitable play to just shove in here. So that's what I was going for. Just to lean on him and abuse him in the spot.
And that's what you did. You ended up shoving for, effectively, like I said, $15 million on him, which was 10 times his re-raise, and it was about a third of your stack. So at this point, even if he has a dominating ace or a bigger pocket pair, or I mean a big pocket pair, you aren't too worried about risking a third of your stack on the off chance?
His re-raise range, well, first of all, I talked to some players like DJK and a couple other guys who are really smart, mathematical guys. King Dan is another one, AS Poker Aid. Some really, really smart, like, mathematical-based guys. And basically, in a spot like this, you know, his call-in range versus three-bet range is, you know, his three-bet range is so huge, so his call-in range should be extremely, extremely small in this spot, especially with the money at play and et cetera. So, you know, I can just really, in this spot, the amount of big blinds I can shove unexploitably is over 100. So, you know, just shoving 60 big blinds here is actually, I can see how it can seem pretty spewed to some people, but it's a mathematically unexploitable play. It's also one of the easier plays to do because, you know, like I said, I had to shove it in there. I don't have to, you know, so it keeps me out of awkward situations, which is nice as well. And you know, and then I guess sometimes they could call it worse.
Well, like in this case, you did get called with worse. He ended up calling all in with King Jack. He still actually wasn't that bad. It was about a coin flip. He had a 44% chance to win the hand and double up pre-flop. And so the flop comes out Ace King 10. You end up both hitting a pair. He's now 32% chance to win. But that's not as much as he probably would have liked. Turn comes 4 of clubs. So now there's 2 to a club draw for you on the board. Final card, 9 of diamonds. That's all she wrote for him, and you win the WCOOP title. So, congratulations on that hand.
Thank you. It's yeah, it was a pretty amazing. By that point, a bunch of people had shown up and were watching me, and it took me a while to realize, you know, that was a $200,000 heads up match. Mm-hmm. It's pretty ridiculous.
So, well, congratulations. Like I said, I mean, $1.3 million for an online tournament. You know, you can't really shake a stick on that. So,
no means.
That's as much as most people would want to make. You know, winning a major live tournament. So that's pretty awesome, man. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching the Online Zone on Card Player TV.